Hello, 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 good people them now, viewers, television and social media review. We don't come back today by God in power. But first, I want you know some news. With chief host, Madam Fadima Savage, they get some issues that we take care of. Go able to deal with we physically, but by God in own power, it will still dey follow. Actually, they feel too well. So we dey ask all the viewers, people dem for Lord pray for for a speedy recovery, and then come back. And by God power, next week he go dey here with we. You see, be handle na a service for cabo, well, then go able do the thing they carry you and robustly so. So wetin do, he dispatch me and Mr. Shillon. We dey pray God will make let it can recover very quickly. Now, in the case of Mr. Shillon, we tell God take him, come back and we welcome am formally, be there. Instead, here, madam, they will take a quick trip out of the country, but God can go with the similar like money like him, he don't bring them back with Alhamdulillah. Rabbi Alamin, we gladly, if we or where be they just show how this man very committed to this, if they keep in touch with me, you see what they go on. And I want to tell you very quickly about waiting between me and Mr. Shillon. Here's the thing. Mr. Shillon na Oku Pikin. But wetin happen though, im men na Mio area na the southeast, he go school na southern province, he go up na eastern province. Me now, me comot na southern province, and then I can go up na Iyo area na the Oku community. So na so we am. So Mr. Shillon is vast. He not only na God, but he vast in the country business because but it's very upline. He go school na home, and he papa dey settle na Kalau area na other thing. Mr. can settle the future if we didn't see it. So now we actually see the chemistry, the commonality, and then this dynamic I really like this viewers there because we three way we get lots in common. Me, Madam Fadima Savage, and Mr. Shillon, we of course a lot of distinguished attorneys in there. We don't practice law for just about you call them decades now. Before we can talk about the corona, we my godfather come up. And I will welcome and now let's catch on how do let's catch on how that is to come back to the program. Then in fact I will ask her let him give the numbers then because one let there be one will all the he will announce all the numbers we would have called on. So we'll come back with the candy and now the groundwork for it. So Mr. Shillon again on behalf of the viewers and the television and the social media review and the social chief host Fadima Savage, welcome to you and Madam Sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kutubu Kuroma, and thank you also to producer, Mr. Abdukagbo, and thanks a lot for me co-host who happens to be absent today because of illness, but I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be back because I don't go for about 3 weeks. I had to travel. In one of the countries where I go is Sierra Leone. So I'm pleased to announce that there are many good things I could say about the country, and there are many things I also could talk about that could make things even better. And so nothing said is being said in the form of criticism. In the spirit of this show, as we've always said, is what we can suggest to the government, even though they get ministers, they get high-level position holders, but they probably not get a monopoly on knowledge and information. There are some of us who are outside looking in, so our perspective is a little different from those who are in looking out. And so sometimes when these things are said or suggestions are made, or what may appear to be a criticism of some form, I hope it's taken in good spirit, not that one is trying to create any condemnation or criticize the government, but in many ways to help the government so they can come up with even better ideas if they think what they're doing are the best they could do. So that said, I'm glad to just discuss some of the issues as the program continues with respect to my observation of the country, what I see, what I think could be done better, and how things need to be rectified, because there are a lot of rectifications that do have to take place from me on humble uh, vantage point and from the way I see things. And it may very well be, I hope everybody understands that in this life and in this world, reasonable people can differ. So, not seeing things that are being done in certain ways and suggesting other ways cannot and should not and must not be taken as a condemnation of what is being done, but should be taken as a suggestion or supplement to what is already being done. Because there are a lot of good things we can do for the countries, and I think one thing we shouldn't run short of is ideas. And I think there are plenty of things to be said. So that said, I'm glad to be back. Um,
Thank you.
I missed you guys. Oh, I also want for bring to your attention. When I go, I had all intention of doing at least one broadcast from abroad, because we go now two countries, Australia being one of them. The problem is, as bad luck will have it, at the TSA, the security process na airport at Raleigh Durham Airport, my wife gave me the responsibility of carrying the backpack, which I'm not normally not used to doing. But she said, you have to carry the backpack because it's a little heavy. I said, okay. So it was on my back. When we go through TSA, then say I have to take the backpack and put it on the conveyors, which I did. Well, while it was on the conveyor, little did I realize that they had opened it, taken my iPad and my laptop out, which I think is the normal procedure. Normally they say you were the carry and go, now you can careful take them out and put them into the bin for letting them see them. But me not think, but I just put the whole thing at the conveyor. So apparently they open the bag, take it out. I did not know. I go through my own process, the x-ray. For those of you who have traveled, you get to do the x-ray, you get to take your belt, you get to take your shoes, you get to almost, the only thing, almost where they left you with now your underwear, you take everything out. So I went through that. I see me backpack come, I take my backpack and everything. I did not feel the difference in the weight. I put a bag on my back, I go, I sit down at my gate number for board my plane for about an hour and a half. Then I left. We left. Now when we reach Europe, now my wife say, I don't see the iPad and the laptop. I said, you can't be serious. He said, no. I'm saying, well, I've had this backpack with me all along. So what happened? Then we trace it back. We realize, say, when TSA checked it out of my bag, they never put it back in and they never gave it to me. And they never made an announcement, even when we walk away for say, hey, passenger, we left iPad and laptop, please come back here. They don't do that. So we don't know, say, we don't left an Raleigh Durham. We don't left them in Raleigh Durham until we find that out. So when I call back, the intent may be among lost and found, which is ridiculous because if they took it out, how can it be lost and found? But a day they end up putting out, and I suspect, say, they must have probably gone through my iPad and my laptop because I never saw it at all. They didn't give it to me. But luckily, we recover them. We ask one of our sons for go recover the items. So I traveled all this trip I made. I was without my iPad and my laptop. So I couldn't do any broadcast from abroad. So I may have shown up one time, if not more than one time, but that's what happened. It was rather unfortunate. I can only rely on me telephone which I had a lot of other things to do with. So that said, I'm back on the show. I hope we will get a very nice show today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're so sorry for hearing your sad experience, but that's like life. And I'm glad at least they appeal to the calculus of other people they no one travel that these things we go on because in the end, the up and down, what we not actually too sure, about the corona, which is the latest because we know the end. But in any case, by God power, before the show is done, we will talk about it. But in any case, don't you have a lot today because God make you don't go and you see what it happen. There are certain things that we want to help with that you don't understand. For example, I want you briefly touch on cell phone use and how they depend on the method eventually how. I mean, I want you tell me whether if how your experience with Anaya, if that the same and that if no, waiting at the things that where you go recommend how for bring because communication is very vital. You should say no, very vital. So we are share your experience with you in that regard.
Okay. I have some observations that I think the government the outgoing, because this didn't start under the current government, it started before before even the outgoing government, the previous government and the Skuruma government. But one of the things then what I think say they need improvement on now the delivery of cell phone services. We in America, yeah, we get flat fee or the pay, and we get unlimited amount of time to talk and text, and we just pay one flat fee, and we could talk all day long, all night long. And this is a country where the economy is good, where even if we begin to pay by time as it used to be in the old days, we still can afford it. Well, we have to look at the economic situation back home. The vast majority of the people earn less than 500,000 leones, which is $50 a month. The vast majority of people earn less than that a month. This is reality. I will call it reality 101. So it will seem to me that being the reality, things then what government implements for be done with due regard to the people their ability for participate in some of the activities they have. We also know say cell phone is almost a necessity now. Even a person at the most remote village gets cell phone, and it has brought it all uplift the standard of living of mankind worldwide. People can call them family from America, from Russia, from China, all the way into the most remote village in Sierra Leone or in Africa in general. So when we know say this so important to we, I mean, I think from a governmental perspective, we get from come up with ideas how to deliver the service to we people at the most reasonable or affordable price, because you cannot expose people to that level of service there, then it only become a privilege for them. So now Sierra Leone now, everything is based on top up, which means you are running out of units, so you get for buy more time, and everything is based on credit, so you get for buy credits from the 2 3 telephone companies that we did it, and it's a very 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 oppressive, exploitative, unfair type of practice. I can use myself as an example. First of all, one is not so much oriented to the system. So you go there, what you do, then tell you say you forget a local SIM card, so you go get a local number, so people then go able to reach you easier. You say okay. So when they sell you the SIM card, the first question is, How many units you want? I have no clue what a unit means. Then somebody will say, well, how much time you want for buy, how much amount? You can buy 10,000, you can buy 20,000. So I say, okay, let I get 60,000. Then sell me 60,000. Then put it on my phone. But then what you don't know, just visiting, is that for every time you make a call, that you are charged against that time there. So what happened? The first 2 3 times I can talk just one time on the phone, like 15 minutes. Then they say you have 1 minute remaining. I say, how is that? I just pay $6 last night, forget access to telephone. I'm being told now that I only have 1 minute left on the phone. Then I have to call somebody we know how to do, because you can forget the units. Instead of going out in the street and buy it, you have to go there and get somebody where they sell the units or the cards them, where go put it on your phone electronically. Then you go pay on later. So I find myself doing this every day. I was running out of units, I was running out of credit. So in the middle of a discussion, the phone can just stop. Then another thing I did not realize, if they call Winaya, it's very costly to them. Whereas when we call them, it's not as, it doesn't cost us anything, particularly like WhatsApp, then Tinende. So the point I'm making here is the delivery of cell phone services to the people is very oppressive. It's economically unaffordable by the vast majority of the people. And cell phone is a necessity to everybody. So I would strongly suggest that the government, I don't know how the system is set up over there, but in a country like this, you get utility commission, a commission among which you get representative from the general public to look after the interests of the people. So when they set the policy, then I was also told that if you get a SIM card on your phone, they get about at least 3 companies there. So let me say I buy a SIM card from AfroCell, or they insert a SIM card for AfroCell. Then I call somebody from another network. Then call I think cross service. Then say your SIM card will be eaten up in a matter of minutes. How am I supposed to know that? So the affordability of their card to the general public is highly, highly prohibitive. I mean, the cost is just exorbitant. People cannot afford to spend about $10 a day on telephone conversation. Because on average, if you spend that, this person will be spending an average of about $300 a month, when your average salary now $50 a month. You see? So, and again, like I always say, this is what government is all about. You got to come up with policies that are good for the people, policies that are helpful. And I don't see this as being difficult. The trouble is, when these foreign companies come into the country, they come with the sole desire not for necessarily render services to people. Their motive is solely for profit. That's the intention, that's the motivating force, that's the driving force when these companies come in. We on reaction for B, what is good or best for the people, So balancing the profit motive of the companies coming in as opposed to what is affordable to the people and providing that service of convenience to the people is quite a challenge for the government. So the policymakers then get to take that into account. We cannot just say because a company come, then they are going to do something for we waiting at the policy position, you forget about the rest of the people. Something like that, if the phone charges are low, more people can afford them, more people can do a lot of things. So that's one thing we may observe where things say the people just cannot afford it. So they get what you call flashing. So man go tell you say they don't run out of units. So the only thing you can do, they go just ring you by phone, let your phone ring, and you hope that you call them back. But I bought credit unit average of 40 units, 40,000 units. In fact, I don't even 40,000 units almost every day, probably twice a day. You see, 40,000, I think that's $4. So if I buy that twice a day, $8 for one day, I don't spend on the phone. Well, multiply that by 30 on average, and you see what that adds up to. Who makes that kind of money? The average person does not make that kind of money, but the average person needs the phone. The average person has to have a phone. You know, back day, most people then go tell you, say, do I bring phone for me or send phone for me? Now, some of the people have gotten overly ambitious. I can try to tell them, ask for phone, not say send me iPhone. Because even in America, I say, a lot of us, not to iPhone would be used because iPhone expensive. So if you beg, be modest. If you say you want car, not say send me, I need motor car bad. So do I send me one Mercedes Benz? It don't make any sense. Say send me motor car. So if I go out there, I look for one old scrap, but it's still drivable. I have good purpose. I send it to you. You for say, and thank you. Even if the motor car lasts you 1 month, don't begin to say, oh, not to Mercedes you send, so not to better car. So people specifically will tell you, send me iPhone. You know, well, you don't get money for it. You want iPhone will cost over $1,200. So we need for address with people and say, there's still need for land for courts, then quote according to the size. But I will urge the government, I will hope the policymakers try for look into it, because right now the system heavily favor the phone companies. And there is almost nothing, very little if any, for the protection of the people, you know, in terms of affordability. I mean, there is nothing to indicate that the common man is being considered when the policies are implemented in terms of cell phone services and affordability. So I will urge the government that they really take that into account. That's
Thank
one
you.
thing.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you have,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, sir. What will you do? We get one more area where I want to touch. We're going to do open the line because, like I said today, now interactive discussion we get, you know, and people will get for call because we get so many areas and we get for cover within this. So, really, what I want to put it summary actually, so that you know they get the feel of what we talk since government people dey. So, I want you just run more small on this, transportation business, the traffic pattern, transportation, parking, and all that today. I mean, you dey give the experience based on how you see. I mean, the traffic is being controlled here. How we dey move with traffic because from what you dey see under the question of or the chance of always getting into an accident, it always possible with you only clear what you go see this so and what you dey go through now, wetin are the recommendations wey you put. If you can just give a small a background of what you see, and then you come up now with wetin you think say we go solve am. Because I should say you go agree with me say we no get even traffic lights dem. Na almost every junction wey you go traffic lights dem dey. So they talk of human the pedestrian and the safety. So see how you going that for me in such a way that we understand now within a reasonable time. We go after this we talk on the line. So go ahead, sir.
Okay. Now, and to me, now this is a mere observation again, and I hope the policymakers don't take this as a criticism of in any way, shape, or form. But these things, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to implement because we were there abroad, and we see them things here. My only concern is that we have to realize that we're dealing with people, our own people. And my thing is the mentality, not only in Sierra Leone, but in most African countries, we don't seem to know or think that we need certain things until the World Bank or the IMF or the UN or the African Development Bank, until they tell us what we need, which kind of puzzles me. Because you can look around and you know exactly how can an outsider know more about we needs than we ourselves who are experiencing the shortages of these needs on a daily basis. Why do we have to wait until um, the last minute for be able, what the UN tell we say, oh, then we'll give it so much, and that time they would think say we forget interest in certain aspect of life for the people. I mean, because we're not going to become a great country unless we begin to implement ideas and begin to think big. Let me digress a little bit. As I stood on Wallace Johnson Street, I believe that's the street that formerly used to be Water Street, and I look at this tall, elegant, very impressive building, somewhere around 15 stories. You can't help but be proud, if you're a Sierra Leonean, that you have City Hall that can fit into any city in the world. You take the city council, you put on a New York City, you put on a Washington DC, you put on a Paris, you put on a London, it will fit just perfect. Very impressive. Okay, the elevators are big enough to take a good number of people. Everything is to modern international standard. So why can't we do more of that? You know, I don't think this has anything to do with politics. This has everything to do with what is good for the country. So I, as a Sierra Leonean, I was extremely proud and to take picture of, to show folks here, to say, you see what we got, that kind of thing. So my thing is, we get for begin to think big and act big. Now, but some of the problems, like I always say, there is a book where some of you are familiar with, where the person, right, I can't remember the name of the author, but everything I need to learn or I need to know in life, I learned in kindergarten. Meaning, most of the problems in Australia are not so complicated problems, not just basics. All right. When you get a city like Freetown, and it has become not humanly, by sheer human number, congested, but traffic wise, more cars are coming in, more automobiles are coming into the country. So the city has a significant increase of traffic everywhere. There are some areas that are almost impassable. So what do? We need to come up with ideas how to facilitate the movement of transport from point A to point B. One of the other things we observe, where again to me is basic, we don't seem to have the concept of parking decks, parking lots, places to park cars. Cars are parked on both sides of the street, you know? So a street that can be used for a double lane becomes a single lane street or very tight for two motorcars and for park. So as I walk by, I'm saying to myself, but whatever happened to the who among us we don't come abroad for leave? We know we can any Western city, England, Canada, Australia, Russia, although Russia is not in the West, but abroad, China, we see where there are no parking decks or parking lots. We don't seem to have parking lots. We don't seem to have parking deck. So there is this congestion even on the road with stationary vehicles. They are just parked there, making it so tight. And public parking is almost non-existent. If you're lucky, you will find a place. But the government is losing revenue. The city is losing revenue. Somebody needs to come up with an idea there. Create a public parking. Make sure you will get adequate security so people's automobiles will not be broken into, and charge a fee. This is one revenue source that the government is not thinking about. But it will help to free the streets, the tightness on the streets. It will bring in revenue, and it will make the city look more up to date or more modern, because that's the trend. But the way we congest the streets, uh, it's really, I don't understand why we keep continuing that. Now, let me give instances. Around 4 o'clock, if you drive from town coming towards Wilkinson Road, Moriton, Aberdeen Road, and all the way to Lumley Junction, I mean, it's almost it's stop, go, stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. It will take you an inordinate amount of time. Why? Because too much traffic, and traffic not to move. Then if you're lucky to pass Moriton Junction, you have exit Aberdeen Road around 4:30. The line, the traffic backup from Aberdeen Road coming into Wilkinson Road could be as long as 1 mile or half a mile, as long as half a mile. And then you get police worker for direction for stop cars, for let cars go. But as I'm sitting there, I'm saying to myself, but will it not be easier if there's a stoplight at that intersection? A stoplight that will tell you when to make a left turn, when to make a right turn, stoplight that will tell you when to move forward, stoplight when to make. So you can get the cars moving much faster than things are. But what I notice, you get the police officer who is doing his best. And trust me, I see these police officers, they're working, they're really trying their best. They're doing their best. They're trying to move the traffic, and but I don't think they have to work as hard as. And some people say to me, "Well, Pa, they may get traffic lights, but yeah, they're not listen, they're not follow the instruction." Now I say, but Salone people are no different from other people around the world. This is human tendency. If you make laws, people will break them. Now the enforcement of laws, now make the difference, because people are just used to shortcutting every process you try to implement. So when you make laws, you are wasting your time if you not think of how to enforce the law when people broke them. So enforcement now a problem. Now the person where they follow. So if you put stoplight and you announce the radio, say when the light is red, it means stop. When the light is yellow, it means proceed with caution. When the light gives you an angle for turn, you turn. And then somebody still decides when the light is red for go through. And the police then get the ability for chase them and bring and stop them and cite them for go to court and be fined, and then get some points against the license, and like first time violation of such flagrant violation, if then charge you, because the whole idea the first time not to for lock anybody up, not for make a point. So average amount now the country income 500,000. So let's say taxi driver, a keke driver, you hit out 500,000 first offense, and he go learn because he can't afford that the next time. But the next time you hit out 1 million. Third time you hit out with 1.5 million with suspension of the license. All you get to do for do that repeatedly, and people get the point. Let me remind people, in the 1950s, I don't know, there are a lot of people are not old enough. And some of the people who are in government today may not be aware because they were not in Freetown. So even those who are in position of power today may not even know what I'm about to cite. There used to be a magistrate called Kandapa in the 60s, late 50s, in the 60s. And Kandapa was the one who insisted on this zebra crossing, the white line where people can be able to cross. as far back as the 60s, people who know what I'm talking about, when a driver sees somebody to cross, you know, stop. You force that person there for abandon in attempt for cross the street at the zebra crossing. Police cite you. Kandapa will hit you real hard. And Kandapa, I think, was from Sri Lanka or India, but it was one of those kind of people. Okay? And his name was all over the country that you don't mess with Kandapa. And in fact, there was this song in the 50s and the 60s about Kandapa Bivote, a song where they swear Kandapa because he was an enforcer. But people comply because nobody wanted to, in fact, they put people in a jail. Me not support locking up people in jail because it's a waste of time and money. Traffic violation, a better policy is you hit them financially. Now, when you charge somebody 500,000, I would suggest they don't have to pay it all up front. You give them a period of time, maybe 12 months. You know, give them 12 months for pay them. Because jail for be a matter of last resort. So, and traffic offense not justify one's right of freedom being taken away from that person. So, me not suggest that by no means. But I think we can enforce the policy. And if we enforce, so when people say, oh, they may get stoplight here and that, they may get stoplight here. But I don't think that the answer that the real issue is the irregularity of energy or power. I think that's what the problem is. So the stoplights are not going to work on a consistent basis because we'll not get consistent supply of electricity. To me, I suspect that's what the problem is. But we are faced with a problem that is solvable, that you don't have to be a rocket scientist, that just a matter of policy can solve some of the congestions, because the roads can really get congested. So that's my observation as far as the lack of adequate parking facilities downtown, as well as shopping areas, and the congestion, traffic congestion, not necessarily human congestion, because that goes without saying, you know. And there are some policies, for example, like Usa then call Abacha Street now, where I think that be East Street. Years ago, there were footpaths. The footpath exists. But the city apparently has allowed people in for the sale and the footpath, so people walk in the middle of the street now. I don't know why that makes so much sense. So the traffic itself, they slow down because you have to keep consistently blowing your horn for people for me to move out of the way because there are no footpath. Me suggest say that should be abandoned. The footpath as it used to be should be resumed, so people can go walk on the side as it was designated, not in the middle of the street. And I'm talking about middle of the street. We're not really talking about the edge of the street. People are walking in the middle of the street as if not to Motoka Road. So these are problems, are basic problems that just for go back to the old policies and everything will be okay. So, Mr. Kutubu, that's what I.
Thank you. What I want to open the line because, like I said, an interactive discussion. We have another thing. For example, as a matter of fact, Fadima, we also you want to talk about Joy Coco, the speech that ECOWAS, but not only the station get them, then they put them up. But in the meantime, I want to tell everybody that the lines are open. We are free for call as we talk. So what we can do is share your experience with me. We can ask you for then you tell me about, when we look at education, but within the context of common entrance or selective entrance or whatever it is, and also the parents' involvement in this. I mean, they get a lot of troubling questions with one about this common entrance business as well. And we see how the parents it's like they breathing down the necks of the schools and the teachers. Which in your observation of this, how we go make sure say let the education of the beginning in the context of taking exams, let it continue unabated. Let it be in such a way that nobody not will be seen breathing down the necks, of either even the beginners or the teachers. What are you take on this, sir?
All right. Before I answer that, Mr. Kutubu, I think earlier, before I even get started, would have been designate me as to announce the telephone number them. So let me go ahead and say, in case somebody want for call from the UK, now plus 44 203 239 9581. If you call from Australia, now plus 61 280 064 352. If you call on WhatsApp, now 1 343 997 5828. And if you want to call the toll free number, now 1 866 944 7722. Again, UK plus 44 203 239 9581. Australia plus 61 280 064 352. And WhatsApp 1 343 997 5828. So having said that,
Yeah,
I
thank you,
go
Mr.
back.
Shino. Just 1 second. Just 1 second. Do you, if the technical team gets the corona updates, let them go put on the body so we'll see them as we talk. Wait, sir.
Okay. So I think the question was about the educational system, or
Yeah.
what was? Well, the other thing was,
The common entrance and all them saying the
yeah,
parents
again,
involvement and
like
all
I
that.
say, Mina, those observations. As someone born, raised, went to school in Sierra Leone as a product of the old or the previous system, we on them, now there have been changes in Sierra Leone because in the early years, in the 50s and early 60s or late 50s, there was what you call Cantab. You began senior Cantab and junior Cantab. Then that was replaced by the General Certificate of Education, when a GCE. So we get A level and O level. Then A level was being taken at Form 6. Then we began upper 6 and lower 6. Then they restructured the educational system. Then it became one Form 6. There was no upper. As I always say, there was a time where if you did Form 6, you do receive stipend. The government, they pay you. The government, they give you some money just for your academic achievement. So now, so we began A and O level. Then long after we left school, all of a sudden we begin get this West African senior school certificate. So I just question the necessity of changing from the General Certificate of Education to the WASCARE, the acronym for this West African Senior School Certificate. Was it necessary? And but not only change the name, then change the method, of taking the exams. Now, unlike before, unlike any other system I've seen anywhere in the world, kids have to set aside 2 weeks to take exams. Now, we all went to school no say 2 weeks is eternity, because exam period a very stressful period for students. College or high school is difficult. So why subject the student then to a 2 week period in taking exams where they not get no idea which direction they are going? And then the other baffling thing, now you see bunch of parents them at the school compound. And then when you ask them, what are all these parents doing? They say they can't for support them picking. So I'm a little lost. Maybe somebody will call in, we will try to explain to we, or to me particularly, because the whole things look so strange, that if I'm a child, I'm going to take an exam. First of all, why subject me to a period of 2 weeks just to take 2, 3 subjects and have that carry that stress there with me for 2 weeks? I don't understand that. Second of all, what I do not understand, how is it that is helping these kids? How is it helping them? By the parents being there. They say they are there to support them picking. But I don't know. Yeah, so then you go care paper and pen or anything in there. But teachers are all around. I mean, parents are all around the place, park along the road, along the streets. Then at the school fence. You know, this is a new phenomenon that I cannot even relate to, but somebody can make sense out of it. Then the other thing, for me, I think we are heading in the wrong direction, is the delivery of education to the masses. Those who can afford it, it's no problem. They can afford private schools for them picking them. But what's going to happen to the picking way born and raised in a pan body? How is he or she going to get good education? You know, not everybody can afford private school. And ironically, I observe pan body people are also hiring for tutor them picking them. I don't think that that's fair because the man who tapped pan body is struggling to even survive. There is no way he's going to be able to afford private tutoring for him picking. You know, and these kids may be smart as hell, but how are they going to be able to get good quality of education? And as far as we know, for those who know it, private education in Sierra Leone is not cheap. So I am just thinking that someone has to start looking out for the people, the poor people, you know. In fact, most of the people are poor. But the picking them, I feel sorry for them because everybody get for go for lesson. Everybody them, I mean, that they get for. I go buy some product somewhere. This woman was so thankful, so thankful. He say you just don't know. Me picking that day na owes 5 days now. I say what you do? He say because I not get the money for paying school fee. He say you not blessing for can't buy this much from me. He said now I go make me picking will go school tomorrow and the rest of the month. I was so touched. I said to myself, it should not be that way. I never experienced hardship in terms of school fees. My own parents, they can afford it. I was raised a middle class kid. I don't remember if my papa be struggle for paying me school fee. He not show me any indication of that. He not show me any evidence. Usa me grow up, Penembu, Upper Bambara chiefdom, my papa na be a fairly successful businessman. I don't recall having any struggle for school fee. I went to boarding school for almost 10 years. My papa no one day failed for paying me school fee and nothing of the sort. But even that, I have never lost touch of the common man because I know it's not easy. So I do not understand how we they get position now with the said policy. Everybody they act like for say, then papa that be successful lawyers, doctors, professor, engineer, and we all know that's not so. The vast majority of us who are serving in government today come from very impoverished background, very, very, very poor background. A lot of our parents they can't even talk Creole. They can't even identify the letter A, but they knew the value of education. And they educate some of our brothers and now we get the power. So I can only plead with them. Please look out for the ordinary guy, the man who tap at the pan body. And pan body is safe not to place with people and for day. If we can get better policy whereby government can come up with public housing, affordable housing, low income housing. The last time I recall low income housing was built for people was in the colonial days in Kisi. So what are we doing? You know, we are really not serving the people like we're supposed to. So this is just a plea. This is not a criticism. I know the government get a lot for do, and in fact, if I have to criticize, to be honest with you, I criticize the opposition, not the government. Because on the job now, what do you mean to say so now opposition party member much for the commot? Not to me. So that tells you they too, if they come, then get a new agenda, but I don't know if that will concern the people. But I'm just hoping and praying and pleading with the government to please, you know, what you may see, more can be done, and we are not that impoverished. In fact, I also read that Sierra Leone has found more diamonds, more gold, more iron ore than ever before. So everybody in that country there, with good policy, for be able to get roof under which for lay their head, for be able to feed them family, and for be able to educate them picking, and for be able to get good health, you know? And this is across the board. This has nothing to do with tribe, you know? So, but for create opportunity, we businessmen them, if we get into government, private partnership, for begin give small business loans to the other, because you see a guy in the peddle, uh, 5, 6 items on the street, and I'm saying to myself, this is hard work. For tomorrow on that Sunday, they try for sell uh, motor car wiper or whatever the items are. It's not easy. I said to myself, but how much can he sell for a day to make a difference in a life? You know? So I'm just pleading with those in control who have the ability to make a change in people's lives to please do so, because that's why we go into government, to serve, to help the people, to improve their lives. So these are some of my observation that more can be done, and not a complicated process I'm talking about. And if we just get the interests of the people at heart, uh, so much can be achieved. So that said, I go back to Mr. Kutubu.
Thank you. Thank you very much. To we listeners, then, the lines is open. If you have any questions, for we, especially so far waiting, Mr. Shino not talk. I mean, the lines are open. Yeah. Now, to Mr. Shino, of course, they don't display the corona, results saying that 79 deaths and all that thing. But normally, me or them think about this thing. Waiting, I want to ask you very quickly for see where that. I don't know if you pay attention to that before we can discuss the Wataki, or if they get Mr. Cherno Magic Bar, then the position leader, if he speech there and another player. But while you wait for that, I want to you be what's your assessment of how they administer this corona, this test, compared to what you go through now? What we go through now, how we train the testing and all that thing, and how you see that you see anything where will give you the impression, say yes, the thing it actually they make meet a basic standard. You see that how they
Well,
administer the thing.
well, what you may see is, and again, I don't see any compliance, strict compliance with the uh, coronavirus restrictions. So
Yeah, no,
we're
Mr.
going to
Shilo,
some.
I don't want to that. Yeah, just a second, sir. We get the call on the line. From time to time when they talk, we'll get the call we talk. Who said it? Caller, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you did. This is the social media review with Fadima Savage, Chukuma, and then Mohammed Shilo. Who side the call from? And which your name, please? Caller, you on the line. You get 3 minutes for state your case, please. Who side the call from? Caller, who side the call from? Go ahead, Mr. Shilo.
Yeah, I don't remember what the question was again. Ah.
And the corona we talk about what you see
Oh,
the
oh,
how
oh,
they
okay, okay.
administer and all
Yes,
that
yes,
thing.
yes, yes. Well, I think with the best of intention, it seems like they are trying to comply. but the actions not consistent with the instructions and where you see. You go to a building, they say masks are required. Can I go to 2, 3 buildings? Where they tell me up front here for wear mask. I say, oh, okay. I put my mask. But when you go for see whether you go for see, when they tell you for wear mask, the person when you go there, not only in a wear mask, whether you go for see, but the people around are not wear mask. So you just wonder when I just when they're not the enforcer, let me just put it that way. You know? And so some people do wear masks, even in the offices, but it's not a generally followed policy. They don't follow the policy then. So on board transportation, the vast majority of the people don't wear masks. And I was even telling somebody, I say, you know, the best thing they could have done, and it seems like the United Nations or the World Health Organization, all the other countries, then give we hundreds, if not millions, of masks. Why can't we just give it to the people? And then, of course, there are some people, they're okay, then they sell masks in the streets too. I think that 2,000 Leone for one mask. So there are some people selling the mask. Well, I don't know silent people who would sell the mask, pull the mask. Whether a mask, whether supposed to distribute, we end up in the hands of people who didn't sell. But I see people that sell masks for sure. In fact, I remember I misplaced my mask. I buy one for somebody because I want for help.
I think the caller don't come back. Let's just see. Again, we'll ask her about 2, 3 minutes if you want. Caller, welcome to the show. Say the call from everything that you name.
Hello, Mr. Kudwe, Mr. Shilon. This is Omaru, the call from Switzerland.
Yes, sir. Welcome to the show, sir.
Okay. They tell Mr. Shilon thank you because observation they already give a legitimate one, and they had them problem they are still here in our country, unfortunately. What you know, big for add to that now that the people, yes, we know say the service is not that much adequate, but the people therefore believe in the services within the country. Now, for instance, the educational side, the government don't try. In as much as yet, they get for them more, but they don't try. They try for do a lot of things towards education. They comrade them for believe in the system. But them, that one where they take extra teachers and for go teach them picking in house is not necessary. Even me as I didn't most of the time you get that when you call somebody, you go say, hey, I want to take extra teacher, well, let me pick them go extra class. It's not that much necessary. You know, that all that now parents and just they put burden on their head. Then you say again, the one again for the like couldn't say exam, you see everybody they go now the place, then he try for compare with your own time. Now just some few parents, like we sit NPSC, like the early 2000s who sit NPSC. Let me, I mean one go now the place. And I hope say a lot of people do and so. But now most of the parents them feel say that when they go motivate them picking them, not that way for motivating picking the way for motivate, and at the time before the exam, encourage them make a study so that it go past the exam. But you cook boku food, they go with another make. So this now problem on both sides. The one side of the government, the services are not enough. You know that part of the people again, they not believe and they not trust the process. You know. So this now then two problems this we get, and then for solve them problem, we go for work hand in hand, we go for work with the government, we go for believe in their policies in as much as not sufficient, but yet they get the policies. Then now we work with them. If they say free education, make sure so you can get free education. This extra teacher, extra class, most of the time it need help. Now just waste of money. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Excellent observation. That's us. Always as usual. Since you don't get any other calling, Mr. Shilon, whilst by way of talking about this, why not just address that very quickly until another call coming?
Well, there are a couple of things. I am still trying to grasp.
Okay,
No, but that's fine.
sorry.
That's fine. Now, let me finish this
Sorry,
point.
sir. I don't want to talk to you, sir. Sorry. Caller, welcome to the show. Where they come from? What you like name? What you get for add to this,
Hello,
please?
hello, my two
Yeah.
eloquent, intelligent men. This is Fadiba. What are they do? I call him to just say, welcome back, Mr. Shilon. Welcome back, sir.
Thank
You
you,
all are
ma'am.
doing a good job at stuff he knows. But I did listen to Mr. Shilon observations and stuff about experience we go through, right? And one of the things that he talk of the phone. Number one, like we just first go inside, you don't know how the system they work. But a lot of these people already they don't master the system. They know how it works. They know how to balance their phone card. They know say they know they make no more just direct call. Some of them have two phones. Some of them have like phones we get two different SIM card. They know say if I call Afriselian and whatever. And I know there was a problem with QCell because QCell came as a third phone company. Maybe they give a lot of low, they get more megabytes on the internet for browse the internet, and they begin fetch them. That's one of the reasons when they get the telecom and all that stuff. They begin fetch them, select and they swell them price, but those people came with lower price. I mean, that they give them. So, and then I hear Mr. Umar, they talk, the last caller, they talk on school that they don't need to go to extra lessons. Number one, first, like I say, when we go common entrance, I don't know who stand them begin that habit today, but when them begin and they see that MPRC, the parents go there and they sit down outside the school, then they sit down there, they wait all day. They're out there with food, they're out there with things when they begin and get break, then come in mama them. I don't know who side them begin that day. And I know say there was a public service announcement where they tell say the Kubra they not get for go sit down that door for wait for them picking. But that's how they do it. That's how they've been doing it. I don't know who side they adopt that thing there. For say because when they go there, maybe the picking then go. I don't know. I don't know who side them pull on, but it's a bad habit that they need for break. But then speaking and ISF, they need tutoring. They take tutoring, extra tutoring because some picking is slow. Some people picking they are not fast learners. They are different way to learn, and some picking are not able to learn the typical way in the classroom. So therefore, they need their extra lesson. They need, because I remember when we said they go to school, they get lesson. Where you go to a lesson teacher. But because the school system is so bad, most of the picking they now need for go extra lesson and to the teachers, buy the papers that the teachers they make, buy the stuff that the teachers they give, because the teachers use that as salary. They're using that for get money for themselves. And it's a rotten, broken system. They say, yeah, you go for complaint, but then who's complaining? And who are you complaining to? What are they going to do? Much not they for do. The parents get much responsibility, just as the government get responsibility, because some of these kids they don't want to study, but they want to pass. And if you not study, they pass. Some want to take the advantage, they be waiting and call. Yes, the teachers are abusing them, but some of these kids throw themselves at the teachers, at the mercy of the teachers, forget good grades, forget grade for pass. And that's why when they go separate, they're empty. They don't know much because the system is rotten and broken. And thank you so much for sharing your experience. I wish I would join you all today, but I'm not feeling other stuff in nose and all that stuff. And I can't be on camera because I'm looking horrible and feeling bad. So, but thank you so
Thank you very
much.
much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much
We
for
get any other caller on the line, please?
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, caller.
Thank you,
Who said the call
thank you,
from?
Mr. Adema. Thank you.
Who said the call from? And your name, please? Okay, Mr. Shilon, you can address that with then after the law can go now wataki. I not see they put up the
Well,
chair of Maju Bada that the opposition leader in speech to ECOWAS and not see him, that. So go ahead and wrap up this and then because I want to talk
what,
about
what,
wataki, but more
what,
particularly about experience at the court system. And so I been a lawyer, go to comparative analysis we can do how you see the court dey function, like the work under, the things that wey dey where you think say will help in the improvement of the quality of justice. So wrap this up quick on this education and whatever you talk about. Then we take a quick route to attack. Then we'll come back to the court.
Okay, going back to this education, the free system, you know, I applaud the government for implementing the free education because at least it's a progress in the right direction or a movement in the right direction. I applaud the government for doing that. But sometimes, like I talk about the stoplight, implementation is a very, very important thing. Otherwise, like Bill Gates once said, if you do good, you not plan how to implement that good day, it will turn out bad. And the people that we try to do good will turn out not to appreciate that. I see the school buses. There are some buses marked school buses. I was very impressed. As someone come from America, I said, oh, what a big progress. But then somebody said to me, but not all the students are allowed to go on the school buses. You get for pay. I say, oh. And I'm particular about this payment process because people are not making money. Who lives on $50 a month? And the $50 a month, parents still get picking them for go school, for buy clothes. And no one let them picking them look wretched. I see some very poor picking them. Then dress, if out there, you know, go tell the difference between them and the one who get money. They wear socks, they wear nice sneakers and nice shoes, the girls them. People are really trying. So my only thing is, I don't think the parents can get that much obligation because they don't have the means, no matter how hard they try. You know? But there is a reason to me why a parent will feel saying picking need extra lesson. Let the school system get a level of sustainability, meaning a certain standard below which it will fall. And then anybody who want to do beyond that, like for instance, people who get money, we think they can send them picking a private school. Private school always existed, even way on time. But it was not a necessity. You know, it was optional to parents them who could give them picking them that extra bump there or boost. Nothing wrong with that. Even in America, there are people who chose, and with all the fine public schools that were in some of the states than I are. Some parents do it for prestige. Not because they want them thinks that people will get any better education. In Australia now, it is. Private school, definitely you picking will get better education. The private schools are teaching the beginning much better than the public schools, without a doubt. But some parents think it's an embarrassment even for them beginning for go public schools. It's more prestige.
We get one more question. We got it. But before we take that call, I wanted the technical team know say I don't say the opposition leader that chairman Keiko in speech to the to the technical team. We are download them. Then after I don't know with the court we get for clear. Caller, welcome to the show. Who said the call for me? Which they need and which they add to the show, please.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Nakobo. They call from New York. Good evening, Mr. Kutubo, Mr. Shira. Yeah.
Good evening.
You know, actually, just like what Mr. Shilo they talk, we can't see now the system now lack. And not to foresee we not go able do them, we go able do them. For example, just like what they say, we don't need for put driver na jail. But we need for institute a system where like them points like when you violate, as time they goes on, your license gets suspended. Mm-hmm. You see? That's all they prevents for let drivers them very, very careful because then look like when you license get points, your insurance don't go up, it affects your insurance, it even affects your record. So you be careful. You see, and that don't mean say people then still not violate the laws. But still, the law then they enforce them. Then at one area, look like the doctors, the nurses, the teachers. When you don't learn your book done, you get forget life thing. for practice. And forget NIC, you get small exam the way they take about ethics. How you go behave, not of us saying wait you don't go learn na college, na they can't draw for you all that big wait you say no, but then now for your own life now, na simple thing then for how you they behave and wait you expect na the feel. But we don't get that. If you violate a just simple code of conduct on your patients or your residents, that's it. You don't get problem. Investigation coming. If you not take time, you lose your life here, you get prosecution. All that they help prevent people. Then by talk the other they give with the woman in our hospital, they go stop. You see? And then go also pay attention if somebody they cry, even if they beyond in control, but you get where how you get your role for console the person. And for let the person know say you feel exactly like how in the field. But we don't get that. People they do it in the ones for doing at the hospital. Not of us say everything for big computer say, oh, we don't modernize, we for this. No, but honestly speaking, documentation is important. Before this country they go into digitalization for see computer, everything computerized, then start somewhere. From ordinary documents. But everything will go in line as well. You see, just like the teachers there as well. But you see one whole school, 100 students there, 80 fail. No nothing, no the commodity. In fact, the teacher there, even they give a talk to the students there. I know say yes, sometimes it not can be the teacher your fault, honestly, and sometimes it can be the students your fault. But how would they know if we know if we not follow the process, we not monitor the process? We not gonna know that. You see? Because if students, let me say from class 3, say go class 4, if they do, say go class 6, if they do well, obviously it gets like 60-70% chance for go pass NPSC. But if not push, then they push, then they bribe, then they pay bribe for and say if they go, obviously it gets 80% chance for go fail. Only thing we know the monitor there. Okay, so I don't say me time done. The left for now.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if the technical team already the opposition leader is speech the parliament day. If they know then they plan also we can talk about it. Yeah, we can get sound. That's what we
member states in terms of human rights issues and peace.
Mr. President, you are fully aware of developments in my country as well, Sierra Leone. Since 2018, a lot of issues have developed, from the elections of the Speaker to the removal of elected members of Parliament. Your office has been copying all of this, Mr. President. So it would have been good, as we used to do in the past, to get a situation report by countries. Because as I speak, there are other underlying issues in some of these countries as well. My country, for instance, after the elections, electoral reforms were recommended. We are yet to conclude those electoral reforms, and they are necessary and important for future elections. Again, with the Constitution, there are talks, because we've seen a policy already, for local council elections to be non-partisan. But the Constitution is specific on what is supposed to happen. I am sure you also heard of and have been told about the intention of government to conduct a mid-term census, the first time in our country's history.
In an exclusive interview, Honorable Chairman Oba called on the Commission to ensure Sierra Leone is under the radar of ECOWAS Commission.
I deliberately raised the questions on the mid-term census, which the government of Sierra Leone is intending to carry out, which we are opposed to, which we believe is not right. I also reminded him on the non-partisan policy which the government is about to roll out in conducting local council elections. That again, definitely, it is against the Constitution. That was why I told him that issues that borders on Constitution, ECOWAS should not sit and wait for the last minute before stepping in. So there are several other issues, as I talked about. ECOWAS has early warning mechanisms, and Sierra Leone should be under their radar. They need to visit Sierra Leone and look for those things which we as opposition are raising as against what the government is saying, so that they will avert anything that will destabilize the peace and security of Sierra Leone.
Joseph Johnson, AYV News, Abuja, Nigeria.
Some members of parliament representing Bombali district have expressed concerns over the ongoing verification and registration process by the National Civil Registration Authority. Now, the MPs say constituents have to travel far to register due to inadequate registration centers and other logistical challenges. Salifu Cherino Kamara reports.
According to
Thank you. Mr. Shino, when I lay out the groundworks for this, then what you will do, you will come in as you can't give the law expertise now. Then you take out within the context of the fact, which is in the court system. Now, what in Asinaya, we very ironic, we are going to think say it look a bit hypocritical and a double standard on the part of the opposition leaders. And the EU party, the governors say they don't get when they meet governors, they don't get any respect for ECOWAS, because we see what happened during that constitutional saga between and Woman and Vice President. The matter was taken to the ECOWAS, and Attorney General, where now in the chief law enforcement officer, persuade the president let it disregard, an international law. And we got to remember, if we not a part of any organization, you're like if you belong to a club, all the laws that within the club is binding. They cherry pick a lemon drop which you accept, from which you don't accept. That you don't know. So for council, the opposition leader now taking this, more and high ground there, trying for being the pope of existentialism, trying for project themselves as if that they are the only people that will believe in the rule of law. Let's say I still a bit hypocritical there. If this person so concerned about this, the first way we say, why they not go even try for make sure so they get a law and order inside the own party? Can a democracy good? Can a transparency, the rule of law, anything other than going at the international body? They make this kind of a pious claim for trying for take this moral high ground like this. How you look at this in Mr. Shino, from a legal perspective, and then from the perspective of how the politics they work here.
Well, the thing is, I keep reminding with people them for say, we get a constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. Everything what parliament do, therefore be done within the framework of the constitution. Parliament not get the authority for engage in any unconstitutional act despite the power where parliament gets. And any act by parliament where we think say, or people and think say, or civil group then think say, not consistent or violative of the constitution should be challenged. The problem now becomes the court system. Because when I listen to Mr. Chair Domadu, they talk about the midterm census. I'm saying to myself, before we even talk for say ECOWAS for stepping, don't we have a court system? Shouldn't we try to get some kind of injunctive relief, or so the court can take a look at what is being challenged as being violative of the constitution? Because obviously the opposition seem to forget problem with this the midterm census, and it could be challenged on constitutional issues. I don't know, but that's what the court is supposed to be doing. But the court upon themselves cannot just inject themselves into matters unless these matters are brought to their attention or under their jurisdiction. So the question is, Parliament has the power to hire special counsel to file certain motions or brief or writs with the court, the Supreme Court, because I think these are matters of which the Supreme Court get original jurisdiction, and challenge some of the moves of the government. When you challenge some of the moves of the government, it's like playing tennis. The ball kind of you caught, you hit the court back, hit the ball back to the other person's court. So if the opposition do what they're supposed to do, then they have performed their own duty and leave it up to the court for decide or to sit on the matter. But because neither Parliament nor the government, the executive, can decide what is legitimate and what is not. And as far as we know, the executive will always try for assume power which they may or may not have or may not be given to them by the Constitution. That's why a Supreme Court exists. But it seems like we are not challenging a lot of stuff. We just allow things for just sail through. So I don't see this midterm census issue as a primary issue for ECOWAS. We got our own court system. I think therefore challenge the thing that we own court system first. When we fail, then we can go to ECOWAS and say, well, we don't exhaust the judicial remedy in our country. So when at the Supreme Court, therefore now ECOWAS with the counter now because we don't get any more level of relief. But I don't think so for just jump for go to ECOWAS and not challenge the legality of the government assuming the power with the opposition member they say the government doesn't have or shouldn't have, and will not get no definitive ruling from a legal standpoint. I think these are dangerous practices. I think the opposition is being somewhat, I would say, indiscreet. I don't think that's the right way to go. I think some of these laws should be challenged and force the Supreme Court to rule on them. Force the Supreme Court to rule on them. And if the Supreme Court fails to rule on them, it's a reflection on the court because the court will not be performing their own duties as delegated to them by the Constitution. But now we have just two branches of government running the show. And the Supreme Court, that should be the referee, just is on the sideline, not even playing the role of a linesman. One of the Supreme Court for be calling the shots. So I think say the opposition owes it to the country. So if they don't have the funding to get private attorneys, they should go into fundraising method by which they can hire private lawyers and for argue. And there are a lot of talented lawyers in the system, Leone, who are very much capable of presenting some cogent legal arguments for the court to be able to decide whether the power being assumed by the executive is beyond what the Constitution allows them to or not. But if it's not challenged...
Yeah, I got a question for you. So in fact, I mean, inference here now, other than this guy Washington, then they might as well file an interlocutory injunction with the court. Is that it?
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of type of writ or relief where they can sought from the Supreme Court. But I don't see, I mean, because the executive is not doing anything that an executive, particularly in America, wouldn't do. The executive will always be reaching for more power, for extraterritorial power. That's what the courts are for. So the other side, where feel say the president don't get the power, the only way you are allowed to challenge the system is by going to court. I realize, say, we'll get a weak judicial system, but we cannot continue to make it weaker by doing nothing. We have to keep, for whatever the system is worth, challenges should be brought to court and force the court to render decisions on on some of the matters here, which are of national importance. But so I think the manner in which the opposition is going about it is not as effective because they are complaining and that's it. So that's why I say if funding is not available, maybe the system not provide for parliament for be able to get their own lawyers to challenge certain issue. They should know now that too many things are coming up in which the opposition is going to need lawyers to challenge certain issues. So they get for land for Fenway for raise funds for challenge some of the issues here. But if they not do so, it will only get worse because the executive is going to keep pressing and trying to assume more power, which they may or may not have. Now, the real challenge will be if the court decides, let's see if the executive will follow or comply. Then when the executive don't comply, then they are violating the Constitution, which they have sworn to uphold. But now we're not even put the executive in a position for force them for see if they go uphold the Constitution. You know, so this is my own analysis of
If
the way I see it.
what I want to do, I want to angle that discussion with your observation of the court system, how the court system they function, and I want to see if anything they way by any chance, assuming we go you see the court system because I feel so you do that you be a lawyer for see it, so that you can even juxtapose them with how the court system they work here and see what the shortcomings they will see there, how they will improve the justice system. Because me and you know very well say there's a common legal dictum which say justice delayed and justice denied. In the daily presentations in a SALONE forum when they deal with issues coming in analysis, I don't come up with it here because I get cases that when they send to me, cases that every now and then when they send to me for inordinate delays on the part of the judges and for letting render decisions there. I know of a case where I get now where I belong podcast since 2005. Now that case done before Justice Van Mark. 30 days one mark not give ruling. Imagine 205 to now 30 days. So in your opinion, what I want to let you they help educate you on, waiting that you what I take and waiting is possible for them inordinate delay them, waiting they handicap them, waiting they make and then the court system as a whole, not they move very quickly, they call like you as a lawyer, if you go to court now you court here that you ask for something very quickly. For you don't need for go see anybody at the platform where you where you go, the information desk they start, and then you go there, you how they call them, they una as low as they are because when I work as a law clerk, I be also I can be lawyer what we move for in paper go. So I did up that line, who say una they lawyers in it. So you guys can get process very quickly, don't it. So with all this experience, what do you recommend that for improve the quality of justice in the country?
Oh, there is so much. There is so much to be done. And again, like I say, these are not complicated processes or issues. It's just the willingness to do what is right. Because some of the things are just basic stuff. Let us start off where justice is being administered. The General Courthouse, Shaka Stevens Street, na Freetown. Fantastic historic building. Old time and traditional architectural building. But that building did a long outlive in usefulness. Long. For all I know, that building may be about 150 years or more, in fact, older. Now, you cannot dispense justice in an atmosphere such as that building did, first of all, has no elevators. You get narrow stairways, very narrow, and people are going up and down. So you are always squeezed or go up, upstairs. And that building, my personal observation has always been, it's time for the system to build a new, impressive, well-designed, modern court house, justice building. We may call it justice building. And the government has a lot of locations. They can build in Tower Hill if they get any more land. They can build in a hill station if they get any more land. Or they can even erect one at the international court where they get in a New England Day if there is any space. But I talk about a modern system in building and all of that. The existing courthouse, in my humble opinion, will be a perfect place for a museum, which a country badly needs. I mean, you cannot find a better location. Of course, the building as it is cannot be it's not designed for being a museum, which means government, and this is what foreign organizations can help us with. It will, the building will have to be gutted out, to be reconstructed, modified for suit, because the architecture outside, it fits that of a museum, a national museum. So we will begin to collect artifacts which consisted with history and African history. You know, that building there is good for something. Of course, there are other things where you go attached to the building itself in terms of services and facilities, but just as a matter of general topic. But the idea of a courthouse, that building there is not suitable for a modern courthouse at all, you know, to start with. Now, in addition to that, the dispensation of justice, again, you don't want to come across as criticizing, but my thing is, I don't understand the reluctance of trying to improve the system. I don't know what we have against improvement, you know, because it would seem to me, and again, like I say, I think there are a lot of violations of the Constitution, even the way the system is being practiced. Okay, if you get a right to a lawyer and you get a right to participate in the assistance of your defense, the practice of having what we call a dock in the courthouse or in the courtroom should be outlawed because it's unconstitutional. A person should not so-called when they can refer to the defendant as a prisoner in the dock. It shouldn't happen. You should be able to sit next to your lawyer during a criminal trial to be able to consult and contribute to you in defense. You can't do that if you are in the dock. But if government or the legal profession itself not challenge that, I think some civic organizations should start challenging them practices than they for outlaw some of them things, because we cannot continue practicing law as it used to be 200 years ago. It not make any sense, you know. And unless we inject into we mentality some progressive ideas and how for pass progress from one generation to the other, things are just going to be as they used to be. And progress is not made by younger generation coming to inherit older lifestyle. It has to be the other way around. So as far as procedurally, there are a lot of things. I mean, so many things that have to change, to be honest with you. The whole missing things, you know, the obtaining of documents should be made more efficient. I don't see how government official documents should be handwritten in the age of computer. You know, to this day, birth certificates, marriage certificates are being handwritten. They don't look official at all. Why? What's wrong with the digital age? How we pass we channel will not catch on. That's because those who are responsible for come out with policies don't seem to care about modernizing the system. And we know, see, when the system is modernized, it becomes more efficient and more productive and more beneficial to the people in the country. So I'm just touching on a few things, you know. In fact, earlier Ms. Fadima mentioned something like, well, we talk about the telephone. Let me just switch a little bit because I talk about court system. I go back to the telephone system. We say there was a company we didn't call True Cell. We didn't come. They come with the best of intention for charge less in competing with the people, with the other existing phone companies. But somehow the government muzzled them into raising the price because the existing companies then complain. Well, that's not only awful, it's wrong. It's wrong because we have to decide whether with the practice free market economy, whereby the marketplace determines the price. I even think, because I just saw, I read the press release where they say President Bio, they order certain people. I cannot think of the commodity, but I just read that. It got on my mind. To be sold, a certain commodity should be sold at a certain price. I think that's unconstitutional. I don't think the president should have the power to dictate how much me as a private citizen for sell my product. But as it is now, if it's not challenged, I mean, he gets by with it because if I buy my product, you say I have to sell a certain price, I have to sell it that way. But if the issue is a challenge, then the court will get to decide. I thought in a free enterprise system, the market decides the price. Not some government officials go say, me rest, I for sell me rest $50 or $100. The market will decide that because the market always gravitates to the person who get quality product at a reasonable price. So we don't need government for dictate how much people for sell certain products. Now, it's a little different. If government, they allocate certain products to certain consignees, then the government get all the rights. For example, if government, they subsidize rice, then bring them in, then give certain people a wedding consign. The government get the right for say, you know, for sell and pass this price. That's understandable. But when not the government contribute for buying a product, I cannot see how the government for tell me how much I for sell my product. And if the government do that, we now the lawyers them. Now we for the resident challenge, it's about time we begin to get public interest law firms. You know, it's not about making money. The profession also can render services to society. So there is a whole lot wrong with the system. Because like I say, as long as the power of the executive is not challenged through the court system, they will keep grabbing more and more and more power and thinking that they actually have the power. So my suggestion is the legal profession is lagging behind, maybe because of lack of funding or maybe because of lack of knowledge that they can challenge these things or for a variety of reasons. But I'm saying the profession is doing a disservice to the country by not playing their role that they should be playing, you know? And so that said, these are just some things they want to touch on. The court system can be vastly improved, vastly improved. You know, when you give testimony, judges can make notes, but the record of the proceeding is not the note of the judge. The judge makes note just for refreshing memory in the proceeding. But the proceedings are taken down by recording. So nothing is left out. But the system here now watching the judge put in the notes becomes the record. All of that is that's not correct. It can be improved, and I think it helps the judges. So the judges are not bound to take down statements being uttered by witnesses. The judges can only write what in their mind they think is important to them in making an assessment of the case. The entire record of the proceeding should not be that of the note of the judge. The record of the proceeding should be a full record taken by shorthand or contemporaneously by someone who is recording the proceeding. And nowadays, it doesn't even have to be by someone. It can be done by just simple tape recording. The system is set up, when the process starts, everything is recorded. And if there is going to be an appeal, they do a transcription of the record and write it down. That becomes the proceeding record, not what the judge say. Because what may be important to the judge may not be important. What may be important to me as a lawyer for appealing the case may not have been important to the judge for putting a note. So now one of the flaws of the system back home. So every system, even America, as advanced as they are improving their system all the time. So we cannot say once you become a lawyer, once you become a doctor, you don't learn all the law, you don't learn all the book. You know, we don't have continuing legal education. Lawyers are not required to learn anything beyond just passing the bar exam and that's it. They're not improved in skill level, you know, of representation. Doctors are not required to improve their skill level of specialization. So we either try this, so not only the government, not only parliamentarians, not only the president, because people tend to just attack the one, but the professions themselves have to come around to doing what it takes to help the system to be more efficient. You can't just go law school, you become a lawyer, and that's it. Nothing new to learn, nothing else. So how are you going to keep up with all the changes? How are you going to keep up with all the development? And the same thing with medicine. So the system of itself, the legal system of itself, can do a whole lot. And all that does, it enables the lawyers then for make more, for do well. Leaving it as it is, I think is a disservice to them. They may not see it that way, but if they try for improve the system, you're going to be amazed. And there are certain practices of the legal profession, I think they should, I think also that may be violative of the Constitution, you know, in terms of how they charge. I hear practices such as if you are a young, new lawyer, you cannot charge like a senior lawyer. That violates the spirit of the free enterprise system. Because at the end of the day, even though the legal profession is a profession, it's a service profession. You're rendering service to the public. That's all it is. You're rendering your service to the public. So the public, you get a right for charge, which you think say your service what? I think it's wrong for say, if a lawyer has just been out there 3 years, he shouldn't charge as much as a lawyer who's been out there 10 years. There is no evidence that a 10-year lawyer is a more efficient, a more effective, a more informed lawyer than the guy who's been out 3 years. That's why you have bar exams. The bar exam is a presumption that you are as fully qualified as anybody else. And young lawyers have talent too. So, but these are things, unless you challenge them, Lord, and then at the court, the system will stay that way. You know? The system will stay that way. So there are many things, Mr. Kutubu, that one can talk about. And this is all being suggested in the spirit of improving the system, which in turn helps the ordinary people, because the legal profession, it serves the people. Politics are for the people, you know? And so you don't become a lawyer so to represent yourself, it's to represent the public, you know? So, as I said, there's a lot that can be said.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Today, actually, Charles, you really appearing as the guest today. It's like, you know, but in any case, as we wind down, now two specific areas I want to talk about now. One, it will be a very quick way, like experience with Wataki, because Wataki has become a kind of an albatross hanging around the nation in neck. We all dey see normally wetin make you always like for me, I can always like for me comparative analysis. Of course, this place where they can call dey when you comot from that place say you dey use the 95 take am, there's a place they call Baltimore, the harbour, Baltimore harbour. We don't know how America dey do that engineering dey wey water dey on top of una I mean yeah water dey una dey under but the water dey up then una dey drive under. I don't know how America dey do that engineering dey for come up with that Baltimore tunnel. They take that in wonder. That place dey wey as a matter of fact na in the major commercial hub na the eastern coast. Na the eastern coast. I dey wan compare to Uyo Wataki and compare to Wataki. You know believe say SALONE before see dem give forget experts dem wey dem can develop that place in such a way that because if you kind of watch and Baltimore Harbour there are lots and lots and lots of other things wey na commercial activities wey dey help the economy of the place. Apart from the shipping, you get other things that dey take place there. The place dey function 24 hours, 7 days a week, anything. And remember, then people they own that trident target. We own like the country with a natural harbor we will get. What thing you will recommend in terms of how they will able utilize or turn that place into such a major commercial hub where actually will help improve with economy because like I said the Baltimore tunnel or whatever the Baltimore harbor, trust me, it brings river of money to Maryland as well as the United States because they money from there they pay taxes to the sun and necessarily they take her for give free they go they talk of free education, not free education only now for make taxes and that they allocate for some okay go school from head start until they reach that 12th grade and all that thing. So with your own experience we go that turn we reach that Wataki. Wetin are the efficient system we see there and wetin will be your recommendation and but more so specifically I want to touch on the integrity of people then goods the way they care good because when you see I say then the people only open the clerks only open then they open the people then goods there where you go there they do this thing because that don't go happen now you don't go anybody in goods there where you can make you know of that. So what will be your opinion or what will be your recommendation before coming to the last topic for today?
Well, there are a lot of good things that can be done. I just think it's the willingness. You see, what in the undermine with system, now what do you consider to be people are not coming into policy making positions for do good for the general good or the general public. People are coming into positions for get that power they for be able for strike deals that is beneficial to themselves alone. Because if you do the right thing, for example, take like where you get this toll system. I go through a toll system around, I think Waterloo area, no, I think another area there. Very impressive, just like here. And they are making tons of money because people are coming through. It's 4,000 Leones per vehicle. And there are thousands of vehicles that go through that toll day every day on a daily basis. I don't know what the statistics are, but if you check, it's endless amount of vehicles. There are always long lines like America here when you then at the toll booth. Okay, so the same thing happened with this deep Wataki situation. Wataki, for some reason, they not they charge. I mean, they just keep raising the duty, raising it and raising it. And as far as we know, because of that, a lot of items or products are bypassing Wataki, going into Guinean ports or Liberian ports. So my thing is we have to remain competitive in terms of we with duties, with custom duty. Otherwise, we don't go always out maneuver we. Because some of the vehicles they will complain about now, say, where the talk say we get boku vehicles on the road in Sierra Leone. A good amount of those came through the Guinea-Liberian border, not through Wataki at all. So we are losing revenue. So my thing would be, again, the policymakers, they get a lot for do. But I for run a harbor, and I for run and profitably, I have no expertise in that area. But my common sense tells me that if they hire the right people, I think, say, personally, I think duty for be dropped to an affordable level so products can come in and be sold at an affordable level so more people can put more food on the table or put more clothes on the skin. That's how I see it, but not to my expertise down there, I don't know, other than the fact that Wataki is not being run. Because, for example, Liberia, they get a system now, when you ship something from the state or anywhere, you can pay before the thing left the United States in full the clearance cost, that when you reach the Liberian harbor, then just you go pick up and take them. You're not going to go through any hassle. Everything has been taken care of in advance. So if Liberia can do it, what's stopping us? You know? So you don't necessarily have to go begin for clear your goods over there. And you can pay the clearance cost all abroad. Maybe Sierra Leone is doing it, but I haven't heard of any such practice. So with Lily, I know about that. Those are some of the things I say. I mean, there are good ideas all the time, but we just get for strive for good ideas. We don't necessarily have to do what we're doing or not doing. You see? So, but we are really lagging behind. We are lagging behind for a variety of reasons, one of which is we're reluctant to improve. We want to keep the old system on almost everything. You know, you take a look at with birth certificates, take a look at with governmental documents. Them, they are awful. Birth certificate, marriage certificate, those things are not. They are not impressive at all. I think the policymakers they should do better.
Thanks. Now, what you know, we look at Freetown, the municipality of Freetown. Especially when you look at waiting this mayor don't do or he not do for improve the moral profile of the place for look at the physical condition of the work they improve and etc. And then also I want you see waiting at physical limitation. I want you help me understand if you observe anything what will hinder the mayor in work. For example, trash collections. We need to talk about that. Because I mean, like tomorrow morning you can't get trash collections. And public transportation, and I know you don't believe say it will find based on your experience that you experience it. Let me get a local government, like the city council, of all the respective jurisdictions, not of which no more. We could be very independent. You know, the whole PG County also. The county is really independent of the federal government. They get the new systems that when they put in place. They get a police, they get a law service, they get a fire force, they get a school station. And because this is what we do with decentralized authority. The problem why we getting presidents in Africa, where they get this too much power, everything else is being that the presidency and this that is setback for any country because when you don't put all this the power, this extraordinary and plenipotentiary powers in the presidency, and the presidency not to a fountain of knowledge, not to the be all and end all, not to the Alpha and Omega or the Yakna Stein, you don't get monopoly over everything. So maybe you say you're putting the philosophers and guys like Montesquieu then in the 16th century, guys like John Locke and when they divide governments and all that. You know, if you say it will be defined if we get move from the boulevard of progress to the avenue of success. You don't believe say it will find out actually really in the true sense of decentralizing in the political structure that the country give the the well our call counties I don't know hold on in Naya but okay the big towns there McKinney and Bombal these all of them big towns there let the mayors let them they run the place and they pick their own money they use them other than rely on government. So I want to come in the context of waiting the mayor of Freetown give you assessment of this time.
Well, we all know, say, the actual managers of city or local government are people who study or who are experts or who are employees with some degree of expertise in town management, because people go to school, people go to college and get degree how to run cities, how to run town, I believe how to run district council. The mayors usually are just what you may call symbolic heads. The mayor shines when he picks a team or he get a very solid town manager who designs policies and try to implement them in the name of whoever the mayor is. So if I don't know how Sierra Leone system is set up in the sense that I don't know whether the mayor is the actual manager of responsibilities as well as the actual management of the everyday operation of the city. But in most places, the town manager is the one who is responsible with or for the everyday management of running the city. And I think when you adopt that kind of policy there, you can do a whole lot better. Of course, the mayor in coordination and in conjunction with the town manager and in team.
Okay,
So
let us conclude you and let's stop you 1 minute. Let ask you a question. Especially when you don't win this. You recall a name of like the Yankees Johnson, remember that name that you ever that name?
yes, yeah.
You remember such time because this way is also I think it needed of thing that okay we get to call after the call video will come back to the caller good evening what's the call from what should I name what should they add to the show please?
Hello.
Hello?
Okay. Yeah. In a promo again, I recall from New York. I just want but rest to waiting Mr. Sheila last talk about the competitive markets in the harbor, the ports, and compared to other countries they are around we, including Liberia and Guinea. You see, honestly speaking, just like what you talk, the policies way they make the leaders, and then they make up for the ordinary people and for satisfy them. I before ship motor from Belgium to Sierra Leone. The same motor for ship from Belgium to Guinea. I check the prices. For ship from Belgium to Guinea, it before cost me 1,720 euros. But when I ask the shipping company, say I want ship SALONE direct, it cost me 3,000 euros. Now that it cost not only clear you know they done at 3,000 euros just for the motor car, the same motor car for ship Conakry and the same motor car at ship and SALONE, 3,000 euros. Then apart from that again, the government, the shipping company they pay to government for that motor car they were a ship. The shipping company paid to government 1,720 euros. Go direct to government at CTN. You see, so the clearance, Guinea and SALONE are almost the same, unless the other Jebu, the way that they take now people they earn, where they make the money skyrocket. Because all that are because check. But the shipping lane now is more expensive for ship na Salone past the sub-region. And Sierra Leone no get the agreement where Liberia and Guinea get as Sierra Leone and they not get that memorandum of understanding. For Liberians, if they want ship Mutkan and Guinea, they make transit. Sometimes they pay half of the money where they for clear because they go Liberia, not to Guinea than the user. Or for Salone, if you ship to Guinea, you get forget the number plate every day. They pay the full amount before you count. And when you count back in Salone, you they pay just like how you they pay now Wataki for that Mutka. Instead of the Salone government put the price down, instead they make it very difficult for people. Today, you no go believe I heard coming from Liberia, a more cheaper na Bo, Kenema, Kailan, and other areas than past the way they come on our na Salone. Somebody advertised I heard na WhatsApp. I call the party official na free zone because now there I get something for do. Where I call the party where I ask can I say no, we not get store na free zone. Say I heard na Liberia with the cooler. Now it make it cheap. Liberia know they make I heard. How come Liberia they get more cheaper I heard past week na Salone? Wickedness, leadership wickedness. Now only way they less power. Now they remember all these years. We hurt ourselves because not only the people that we hurt. So this is my own contribution for now. And also, sorry, the CTN, where they claim say now they don't open back another office, even though they exist, but now it don't exist in a more popular way. Anything now you ship na Salone, then they say for pay CTN 2 million, 3 million na wataki. But na lie, na broad day robbery. Because the CTN itself, now the bulk money where the shipping company they pay to Salone government for even allow the ship for slam na the port for put door you load.
Yeah.
So you pay to the shipping company now in the pull that money they pay to Salone government directly. Clear you know they do. But yet still they go they say CTN. That conflict that come again in a conflict with Mio load where I ship na Salone the motor. The post way clear for me tell me I for pay CTN when at 2.5. I say waiting, but outside they do mistake. He tell me say sometimes the shipping company, the one the way they ship for you, they pay the CTN. Say sometimes they need pay. Now I know say oh this na lie. Wait man, no they do that. If wait man they pay, they pay for now all. You know they pay for one person left another person. Now I email the shipping company na Europe. Now they tell me say they don't pay me CTN in full. Then give me the PDF copy. I print her, I snap her, I send back the PDF to the person. And the CTN itself, not to the small, now a whole bulk of money where they pay to Salone government for allow self you load for Candon at that port. You see, from there now they refund the money, they say they not be watch the email. You see? Fraud, now in they go on at that country, much. So now my own contribution on this for now. Just one share.
Thank you very much again. Mr. Shino, let me pick up on this. I've been asking you a question. I asked you, you remember blinding the not only not only late the party system. We ended up in town plan because I mean this way we talk about city managers then. So I just want to take you through certain things then for self leader you argument. The panel now that time Abu Fataraman and the mayor that's all. Whilst blinding Jenkins Johnson at the park and at the town clerk, they call it town clerk. And sure enough, I know say because they get that free hands for run the city council, you may see the municipal schools them how they really go now. You may see even them if you want to see how effective the city council was, just roll back and look where the Queen Bicana Salone, November 1961, lay in Victoria Park. Or no, even go back to the Duke of Kent, when the Duke of Kent go for ushering independence, when Fataraman and the city council receive Victoria Park. Then the very year, November of that very year, the Queen said, go when they receive it. You see the difference because the city council was actually running now the whole municipality officer, the government officer, the people that will not get this kind of interference or the big water enhancing in everything. The city council. So now that kind of era the 9 military for advocate for now we talk to let the city council be independent enough in the way that they will do the work, other than big brother hanging. Look like I talk about just about that building where they don't put up, that mega building where they don't put up. That are the history that the first time in the history of Salone, where the city council get a big building where even more impressive past the government infrastructure than NTND. So when we will add to this discussion for now we get the city government there, not only for Freetown, Bo, Makini, Magoroka, Moyamba,
Kenema.
in order to, in the area of governance, what you will recommend in the context of what the current mayor of Freetown they do, and also that mayor na Makini, because I don't hear what I'm very much, she's doing a very good job. I don't hear what that she's doing a very good job at it. So what will be you say to this?
Well, my thing is, I think the Local Government Act should be revisited. I think the Local Government Act is an obstructionist act where they impede progress. I think the mayor or the city council or the district council administrations then for be given a free hand in terms of deciding how they want to develop their localities. I don't think that should be left with the supervision or to the supervision of a minister, which is basically what the Local Government Act does. It overrides the elected officials, it overrides management. It takes away the power and the ability for these people for administer the towns or localities as they see fit, and put it in the hands of one person who may not even have any interest in any of these localities. So I think that in my view, again, I remain to be educated in that respect, but I want to really understand the wisdom behind the Local Government Act, which goes way back to, I think it was even there before Ernest Koroma in time, the Local Government Act, But then at the end of the day, when you read the act, it just takes away power from the local government and hand everything over to the minister in charge. And again, left with me, I think those are challenges that should be brought by the various relevant entities for see if a minister should have the power to override that power of the mayor or the chairman of a certain council. So this is how it goes, because unless there is a push and pull, we're never going to be able to get the proper lining of which direction to go. So that's my position about the whole thing in terms of what is done or what should be done or what should not be done. So the local government, to me, act need to be revisited. I think it's unconstitutional, but again, nobody's raising those issues. I'm just going by what I see, and I'm going by the authority that the Minister of Local Government has over elected officials. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, since social media review can talk anything, also that includes politics. So what we can do now, and we finally what we do that general discussion we hold, meaning I will touch on everything we think for the next 30 minutes. Hopefully people they will not call, but people they not call you, then within 30 minutes we'll wrap up. But before we do that, what I want now, I really want, because you've been in at home, so I want to see if we can do general discussion how they go. One, we look at the University of Salone, they call it, in the context of the layout, and not just take the University of Maryland, how the University of Maryland has served a money-making place. When I talk to the place they make money by itself, when you can at na the I call it campus na the college back na college back. Now a whole town of itself, we get imagine the university get a government of itself. They get a city council, and a university of Maryland. They get a fire force, they get a police force, they get this, they get all the things. Just a university get all the things. They run businesses and also housing. You don't believe say when you look at the site of Obe College, you say if we begin get your argument has always been we leaders so we will not get leaders and we get vision. If we get visionary leader, you know if we say Mount Olive before not be such a place, apart from the academic training, it will for not be a mega place for commerce, industry, housing, and all that. You know, look at that context. And when you compare to what you don't see University of Maryland. I know they even talk about University of California, they already say you not just the University of Maryland, right? Which you don't see how you look at for they call it University of Salone, especially the inside they take that kind of level we go give them when they up up the hill, when they overlook everybody. What's your assessment of that?
Well, you know, it's never too late. A lot of things can be done, even what you just spell out so can be done from here on. It's clear that that university has been run with a total lack of foresight. Because when you think about the age of Rabe College, and you think about the historic role where it will play over a period of time, and the quality of education where it will give so many people, some of whom are world renowned, you will have thought that just a simple ambition of having a vision of making it a university about the size of what you just described, like University of Maryland or University of North Carolina or UCLA at Irving or on and on and on. There is nothing to have stopped us from having such, because what people may not realize, when you get places like Indonesia, Malaysia, what they did, even though these are much smaller countries, they open universities them with they copy the American system with extremely large campuses, large student body, wider curriculum, you know, more specialization, and then they match the quality of education with mostly American universities, just like Iran and many other countries, them developing countries. So when you qualify, your education is just as good. So no one had any doubt about Frabe College was that it was the cream de la cream. But what Frabe College did not have is someone to lead it with a vision of what type of university it should be or should have been. So what happened with this extraordinarily wonderful university over the period of time, instead of expanding, it contract. So the university not expand. Because by now, Frabe College for the boast of $1 billion endowment fund. By now, Frabe College should have been able to have owned almost all real estate in Gloucester and Leicester. By now, Frabe College should have had apartment buildings, shopping centers, hotels, and on and on and on. But that was not the thought process of we early leaders them. They didn't think everything was for na book, a book. So they not realize, say, for sustain that education day, you need economic success, you know? So Anybody can tell you, say the last major structure built now the campus of Frabe College has been many years ago. There has been absolutely no expansion of significant worth on the campus, you know, and because I don't know the system, I'm not criticizing the system, but then say the taste of the pudding lies in the eating. If Frabe College still depends on government subsidy, if Frabe College cannot sustain itself, if Frabe College has not expanded, if Frabe College has not increased in student body, Frabe College has not significantly increased in curriculum, you know, it's a disappointment. It's sad because Frabe College should at the very least or worse, should be at par with the University of Nsukka, Amadou Bello universities, you know, Makerere University, then one and there. But it looks like all these universities have surpassed we. And it's a sad commentary because you don't have to have attended Frabe College for be proud of its glorious years. But it's never too late. I think a leader with a vision can revive the once glorious position the country, I mean the university or the institution once had. And I think we should go back to the initial Frabe College as a historic model, that it should not be destroyed, that it should be part of we history and part of the university system itself. People who go to Frabe College should always familiarize themselves with the original Frabe College at Frabe at Kleintown. But that also has been abandoned. You know, so I mean, there's a lot that can be said. There's a lot that can be done. All we need to do is just go back to basics, and I think we can do so much for ourselves. We can do so much and get back to we past glory. But unfortunately, people are not thinking in that direction. It's hard to even say which would they think about. But we need progressive leaders. We need changes. We need ideas. And we need to look at the future, not the glorious years. We cannot live on the past. We have to keep moving forward.
Thank you. And they take you back to the law. The law. In accordance with the applicable principles of natural law and the concept of justice, the question of the guilt of anybody, a suspect, is squarely lie in the domain of you, the accuser, not to you. I trust you agree with me on that, not to you, the defendant. I trust you don't get any problem with that. And we did now an era where science and technology don't reach that peak of Mount Everest. Meaning that most cases now are solvable when we use the modern day technology like the DNA, the this, the that. But because may you know, say, because of the advent of DNA, a lot of people then who we are falsely accused of crimes because of the DNA, God don't make a day like today, you know what, free. You know, in your thinking, again, I try for link you to you experience that salary. You know, if you say with law enforcement and the agencies, we CID, we are the column, we for now try for move to that age day where a forensic and a way of doing investigative analysis. We will need that kind of assistance so that we will always go to get the right people there, as opposed to we get the wrong people, because there's also a dictum in law. It will always find let the guilty person go free than you punish the innocent person. You know, because if I don't know so that you commit a crime, then I don't get any problem you going. But somebody where just because of some kind of a thing. So what you go again, because I'm taking back to the area of law, what you will do again for improve the quality of justice in the context of the 21st century technology way available now for some, cases, because of the DNA and all this, how you look at this,
Well,
in
you
later
know,
to start.
like I always say, once we move from a parliamentary democracy to what we call a constitutional democracy, and the distinction there is under the old system, parliament was supreme. Parliament was the supreme arbiter of the law, which in parliament say it cannot be disputed. The court had to just interpret the law as parliament suggested. But once we move from that to a constitutional system, the constitution supersedes parliament. Then parliament can make no laws that are in contravention of any section of the constitution. But the constitution is not a perfect document. It's a document written in such a way as to take into account a lot of aspects of human behavior, but mostly a constitution is written to put restrictions on government, not necessarily the people. The constitution is written to put restrictions on government, and the constitution is written to protect the people. So mostly, most constitutions, good constitutions, are about what government cannot do or should not do. Okay, because people's behavior, as far as everyday matters are concerned, those behaviors are controlled by statute or statutory laws. But the Constitution, mostly, is restrained on government as not to abuse the fundamental principles of freedom of people. So once we understand that, there are lots of things in the Constitution that do not belong there. They should not be a matter of constitutional issue. They should be a matter of statutory issue passed by Parliament, subject to the limitations of the Constitution. But so again, a lot can be done. But we have to start off first by restructuring where justice is being administered or is being meted out. Then we have to talk in terms of how prisoners are treated in terms of constitutional law. Then we have to talk about civil liberties, unreasonable restraints on freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of association. So it's a lot of work to be done. It's a lot of work. And I don't necessarily subscribe to the idea that Parliament can do as it pleases. I don't think so. I think the Constitution doesn't allow that. Everything Parliament does has to be within the framework of the Constitution, or at the very least, within the framework of reasonableness. So that said, we can do wonders with your system and make it a model for other African countries then for follow, or we can continue to do nothing and continue to lag further and further behind. To me, that should not be the way. But we do know things don't improve themselves. They can only be improved by humans. So now with duty for try for make sure say Parliament does what it's supposed to do. You are not going to be able to keep politics out of it, because most of the decisions by all the politicians in Parliament are politically calculated, to have advantage. But no matter what advantage you want to have, it should be consistent with what is in the best interest of the country. Short-sighted legislations passed by parliament to get political advantage over the other group, I think they are counterproductive. I just hope they have that in mind when they make laws and pass laws, And I will hope that. But there are a lot of impressive things going on right now in the system. It looks like the intention to adhere to the rule of law is a good one. And maybe attempts are being made to stay within that framework there. So I give the country an A+. But the practice or the practicing of the values of democracy, I think that's what the real challenge is. But overall, I think the country is trying, but we can do better. We're not doing our best. We're not doing our best because we are a very gifted people. We're smart. Oh, there are a lot of things we can do. But we need to begin to rely on ourselves. We need to begin to identify with problems. We cannot wait for the UN or the World Health Organization or the IMF or the World Bank to tell us what our problems are when the problems are staring us right in our faces. I give you a good example. I went to Guard Street, at the eastern part of Freetown by Magazine Court, Dove Court. I was forced to ask someone I knew who then on a city council representative in this area, who then on a member of parliament. If they cannot fix Guard Street, they don't deserve serving in parliament. It's terrible, it's deplorable. You can't blame the government on that because they have representatives who should show more interest in the area. So I asked the person, I say, when I go vote for whether they represent you again, next election, it no matter whose party that person they don't deserve coming back in. If they're not going to fix Guard Street and pave them and make them clean and get gutters and everything, it's a terrible situation. Anyone want to go Guard Street of late, you need to go there and take a look at it, and you wonder why should such a street even exist within the city. It's bad. It's really bad. And I tell people, when I call on a city council man who represent that area, then tell them, like, and look, and if you want to expect to vote next time with that condition, they will not accept this level of unhealthy condition. But that's the way it is. So there are a lot of things we can do. We have the ability. It's not anything complicated. But not the desire, just the desire, the simple desire to do it is what the problem is. I think it's lacking.
Okay, thank you. Now, when you wrap up now, here's what I want you to do for me. Not to go to the talk of politics, not of politics, not of economics, what I want to do, I want you bring us to the good old days. Now we do culture, sports, entertainment, because all of these are part of development. All the big economic progress of the country, we artists them, we footballers them, we this them. I want to let you rub more thing them. This is nostalgia. Not talk about the good old days. So we get sports people there, we soccer people there, we play there, people like Omasa Kamade, people like Boy Johnson there, people like Kamadu Guia there. Don't talk about the runners there, people like Raymond Babe there, people like Victor Temple there. People that already do high job there. The one that we sabi na the one who said that. So now go back to the good old days, and then we musicians and people like Salia, people like S.C. Rogers, people like Blah, people like
Ali Ganda.
So I want to wrap up with that. Let that be you. Find another column.
Well, but this is the sad part about the whole thing, and we need to start picking up. When you think about the nostalgic days, you have nothing but very good memories of the way things were. You know, since the Civil War in Sierra Leone, the only significant, in my opinion, and I like sometimes for these issues are debated, because these are debatable issues. But sometimes wars take place out of which some good can come out. But in Sierra Leone, after the war, all we've seen is very little changes, very little development. The music industry changed significantly after the war. The artists then in Sierra Leone become much improved in the quality of music they make, in the quality of lyrics within the write, you know. Although I think more can be done, because with music, them all are. I'm not a, I'm not a musical critic, but I would like for with music sometimes, particularly salon music, for entail some thoughtful, soothing type of music, not always the rumba kind, where every time you listen to it, you feel like dancing. So we want it. I wish we can modernize with system whereby new artists then will begin come with songs or music where will put you in a thought process for begin for think, for begin for look about think of the future in the past. Like, yeah, they get rhythm and blues, then get jazz, then get R&B. I mean they get when I read rhythm and blues, they get country music, they get waltz, they get rock and roll. So I hope we will begin forget them type of, because in the early days or in the years past, Ali Ganda, AC Rogers, Salia, these were people, even when you don't understand the language, you started singing Mende,
Yeah,
you still enjoy the
Mr. Shino,
music.
I get for interrupt you. We get a caller. Caller, good evening. Who's at the call from? What's your name and what's your contribution as we wrap up, caller?
Yes, Professor Kutubu, lawyer Shilon, this is Harun Zubairu.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Shilon, for coming back. We miss you. Thank you, sir. I mean, question what I asked lawyer Shilon, you just come out alone. I want to ask you a question. The mayor of Freetown, he promised we say go transform Freetown. But lawyer Shilon, I can tell you today, for the transform Freetown, not only 10% of what he applied for now able to execute. Where the election they come, this mayor go and go na Kisi, try to go clean. Do you think that, even though we respect them, even though we know she's a woman, do you think that somebody will challenge this woman and point out the things the way they do wrong? In fact, I think people in the diaspora, including myself, should really mount a campaign against them. Unless we hold these people accountable, we not go before. They say they plant 1 million trees them, not even 100 trees them. Because with the president, and today we see Ahmad and take power in hand. Until Sierra Leone and them ready for fight for what they believe in, 90% of the municipality schools them. Not get what? And 90%, these are facts. And I could tell Akesoya say, yes, somebody there, we go challenge them in the next election. Thank you, sir.
All right. I think, Mr. Zubairu, I think that's the way it should be. People should not take the system for granted. There should always be competent, able, ambitious, visionaries, we go challenge the existing people in authority, no matter what. I think only then are we going to live up to we promises. Now, I do know, say, when you are out of government looking in, it sounds much easier as to what you think you may do or you can do. But when you are in looking out, then you begin to realize the enormity of the responsibility and how things have to be done painstakingly. But the way I look at progress is not so much whether you do everything you promise to do. You'll be serving the community too if you do some, because we're talking about progress, forward movement. So if you promise 10 things, even if you do 4, 6 remain undone, from me on position, you've made progress. Whoever succeeds you could do some of them things than they were you know able to do. If they're able to do 2 or 3 more, we've done 7 out of 10. The problem is when we see by we own system to politicians, them local as well as national, we they take 1 step forward, 2 or 3 steps backward. So we are still behind. Because I need not go back to all the things we once had before independence that we don't have anymore because we've beaten that horse to death. But we know how much we've lost in terms of the availability of privileges and facilities before and immediately after independence, from the loss of forest industry to SAPMB, to Sierra Leone Railway, to Sierra Leone Airways, to all the wonderful factories that will be get. So I need not go into all of that. And I think, say, because we not take off outside the other person left off. You can't come into in place and undo. But me, no, it would be unrealistic to think a politician is going to fulfill all in promises. But if you fulfill some, as long as the direction is forward movement, we will make progress. And there should always be competent people and for challenge the system. I think people should be challenged, because if you not challenge those in power, they will become complacent. And they're not going to feel say they get for live up to expectation. So I'm all in favor of it. So I don't want to get into yeah, but let me just wrap this up. I don't want to get into the politics of it. I don't know what promises were made by the current mayor. I don't know what the political implications are, but that's what democracy is all about. You make your pitch to the public and tell them what you can do better. If you make a good presentation, you can unseat the mayor. And I think it should be done strictly in those terms. Any other terms will be detrimental to the interests of the city.
Thank you, Mr. Shilo. We'll get another caller. Hopefully, we'll just take another 1 or 2 more callers as we wrap up. Caller, who's the call from? Good evening. Welcome to the social media review. Who's the call from? What's your name?
My name is Ezekiel. I call from Oregon.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for the insights and analysis they give we about our country. Thank you so much. You touch on one thing we really always reflect on. We've been get opportunity for make a whole 360 turnaround at that country. When they look at Rwanda, we've been get that same opportunity. Things been done damage, things been done go backward, and that would have been the correct time for begin to put things in place, but unfortunately we're not able to do that. After the war would have been the best time for restructure things. They will restructure inside Freetown around the country. Now that time they will don't start on that press page where everybody attention been there onto changes and development, but we're not able to do them, So now at this point, the thing don't rack up. It don't rack up. It will be very difficult, because we get limited resources for do that, and then we get leadership and we they know really want go that really na the community and dirty their hand, instead of always sit down at the office, they look forward for donors. We not get that then lead them people and they at all. But say, Lord, we go na the community and dirty we hand. When you they talk about the water key, I started a project right now with second school they built. Na clay brick machine I buy from Thailand. He reach another country, I tell the Ben people here say na school with the go build NGO. You know, just one automated machine and two manual ones. For clear that thing, they are paid $3,500. Now what a key? Now school with the bill. So business that they go do on that, you know, right now we're on with second school building. You know, no ministry, not ever even go na the village for go see the school. You know, where people and they see that school, you know, they no one they see that type of school. Now that whole section, that whole northern province, they not even actually see a primary school like that. You know, clay brick machine now we make out with. But for clear up, the charges where they put power, we talk fire. Say, but this now for we community where they go, they're not care, sir. They're not care. You know, all they care is about money. They, you know, somebody talk about the mayor in Freetown. You know, you for no say Freetown. You know, right now that woman they face all kind of tension from the bio government. Anything where you want to do, look the first time where then they do cleaning. You know, it hala commodity. You know, the woman they try for do cleaning, you know, would they say no, now we for they in charge of this, now we for do approve this thing, now we for do this. She is tied down. Do exactly what you want for do because the government want for make sure anything where you want to where they see and say it is show anyway, then we say, oh, APC. You know, not for be collaborative. The woman not get no issues. I think she's trying. She's trying. They all need to come together and do the thing for the country instead of party business. But anyway, thank you so much for where you they give me some insight and the people away and then at the ground. Hopefully, then go take some of the good things that what would they say, and forget about the nonsense because obviously when you do on top, you will always get criticism. But you for look at the good things and way people and the good ideas, way people and they throw out, where you go help you for develop the country and with people. And I think if we all join hands and work for we country, I think we will do well. But when we they try for hamstring people away, they want to put some things them in place we go help the community, you know, it make a really difficult, you know, it frustrate people, you know. At that point, that run back and forth, you know, because the time way I ship that thing, the whole thing in Germany because now that time when Corona begin, it be done there for almost 2 months. We go back in that country, they take me almost 3 weeks for clear, back and forth. But if you make a simple like that idea we've been they talk about, if would that be the take payment for do you Corona test online? How come they not get things open online where we go make that payment quickly so that when you property reach here, that you just pick them up, you know?
Yep.
They but they not go do them because they continue one for take here. By the time they clear, then don't frustrate you. So let them find way how for streamline things where you go make everything direct. So that way possible because the reason why you see the corruption, if you minimize the payment, somebody pay online, you go direct na government account. How corruption go there now? What a key? Why I go na pick up my item? But they need to do one. They want for continue this for frustrate people and continue the same nonsense of corruption. Thank you so much for your contribution and the ideas where they allow for let it go around. Hopefully, then go take the good one then and forget about the nonsense way the increase in that nonsense. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. I thank you for having interest in educating the people and for trying for coming because that's people like gonna forget a calling. They're not to everyday people like we just to go back yonder and try for build schools for educate the younger generations. And when we go in a salon, I see a lot of I admire a lot of the young ones them. And I'm so impressed how well dressed the kids are. Even the poor ones, you cannot tell the difference between the poor Pekin and the rich one just by the way they look. So everybody is trying. I just hope that we can just give people and the means the platform for me to educate them picking there and not forget this extraordinary financial burden of private school, private lesson. You know, I think they have to come up with better ways than that. You know, and then of course to make people. That said, you know, I think we can do better.
Thanks. Okay, Mr. Shino, I want to use this now for giving you closing remarks now because we therefore you also get a major program when it comes. So give me your overall and column and let that be your closing remarks.
Well, we talk about traffic congestion, how that is solvable, that you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You can look, if you've lived abroad, you can see so many ways. In fact, one thing I wanted to point out, I hear a lot of complaint about Okada operators then. And I was telling somebody, I said, as much as people may look at these Okada riders or drivers as nuisance or nuisances, they are necessary nuisances in the sense that when with the congestion, the traffic congestion now, the only quickest means of transportation now in the city of Freetown, now Okada. Okada now the only transportation you could take from Lumley Road to Cotton Tree, maybe and go get you there in about 20 minutes. If you take a car around 9 o'clock in the morning, it may take you an hour or longer. So they are a serviceable group of people, contrary to the appearance of them being, and I admire the degree of expertise with which they ride their motorbike than they. I'm telling you, these guys are good, you know? And there are a lot of things I admire about these ordinary people. And the passengers are so comfortable and so well balanced. I don't think I can sit on an Okada without falling off of it. But Australians have gotten so adapted to riding it. The women in particular, is just, to me, it's admirable when I see them holding object, holding and picking, sit at the back of an Okada, the man they go around going through traffic, and you don't see any indication of any accident about to happen. Of course, I think it's a miracle that more accidents are not happening with automobiles because of the manner in which the Okada people and they go around. There is another thing, the traffic, one thing I failed to mention, which is also unbelievable. The traffic is based on chance taking. You can be on the dominant road, somebody coming from a side street and just cut in front of you. I don't think we can sustain that type of traffic pattern. We need to do better. But all said, Sierra Leone, we need more policymakers then for improve the system. I think if we can get more policymakers in place, we can do a whole lot to help ourselves and to help the country and to help the city. You know, you go to Lumley Beach on a weekday, it's so highly congested. I get caught up in the traffic just sitting in a car without any exaggeration for 45 minutes, just in the midst of traffic, you know. So we have to find a way of solving the traffic congestion in Freetown. It is really getting bad. Unless they come up with solution, it will start taking from Cotton Tree to Aberdeen Ferry Road or to Lumley Junction or to Moriton Junction. It will soon start taking an hour and a half or 2 hours to get from Cotton Tree to any of these places if they not try to solve the problem. So now my summary now and then.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank you so sincerely, Mr. Shilong. You go okay, you go with Bismillah, and you come back with that. Alhamdulillah, I mean, you stay with, you know, the viewers, with family, and that you were in touch. And also, you know, kind of come up with renewed energy, vigor, dynamism, enthusiasm. So go push them viewers in a platform from the Boulevard of Progress to the Avenue of Success. And we boss and we chief host, Lady Farima Savage, with the pregnancy next week, because the chair, I want to tell you the truth, the chair he won. And also say, me competent for Sidon like that chair, he won. He won for me. If he left for Sidon, may take it easy. How they call him, but he played one for me today. I only hope say, are not fall below in expectation today, I hope, so that next time you will be failed, you don't be well at that place. So I know we'll feel that actually at the bring other possible. But in any case, I mean, it's been a pleasure. We've been here. One thank we listeners, them, the audience, tell them thank you. And we tell them viewers that they don't place that day. I mean, with a family there, by God power, hello, welcome, agree. And one thing I will stress again, this civility that the place, you don't actually reach at the peak of Mount Everest. They get argument in there, they get hala hala. The audience, they give chance for talk, and we say they give a chance for talk. There's this back and forth, between them. Very good, that the democracy, this is what they talk about, the participating democracy. So we'll continue to encourage them, because without them, there's going to be no viewers. Like way Madam Fadima can always say, these are the voice of the people in the area. So with the way God say, it will recover sufficiently enough for they can't take this seat, because they can't take the seat. He want for me, I don't go to sit on it. Me left for sit on that corner, they beat me time today. So I left the team, to level that they handle that. So until next Sunday, by God, we come here, they assure everybody say, Madam Fadima go there, Mr. Shilo go there, Mr. Godena, that me on Ibale for what really happened. Until then, you guys are going to have a very pleasant evening.